Like, I was in the club 5 days a week. That's how I got to tattoo these guys. Like, I was the only tattoo artist that was out that much and that in people's faces to where, like, they would even call me to do that, you know? And Nunez was the first to get the call for Bieber.
Oh, really?
And he missed it at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's the only reason I got that, because I worked with Chris Nunez and I was up till 4 in the morning, and I was probably
like, this kid's up.
I was probably out with Bieber, not same place at the same time.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, you're going to be awake, like, and you don't do drugs. So like, you'll be up. Come do this.
Let me tell you about BookedIn. This is a booking tool. They have a website and an app. Gives you your time back, allows you to focus on your clients and not your schedule. Also allows you to manage your time better, giving you chances to enjoy other parts of your life. Family, friends, getting cool haircuts like Fritz. Peace of mind. This app is very reliable, secure, and well-maintained. No clunkiness or glitchy settings. Hate glitch settings. Gives you your peace of mind knowing your business and your clients are in good hands. Reduces no-shows. Fucking hate no-shows. No download or login required. It's easy to set up. I love easy. And it improves your work-life balance. You're busy. It's hard to balance everything between your various calendars, your clients, and just life in general. If any of this sounds interesting to you, you can use code CASAL. Anyone that types in this promo code will receive 70% off the first 3 months of their subscription. Checked out bookedin.com. You're welcome. Yeah. Welcome to the Unemployable podcast. We have special guest Dan Price. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you guys for having me.
Crowd favorite, Joe Casal.
Yeah.
So you guys know each other?
Yes, we
Little
do
bit,
for
little
a
bit.
decent amount of time. We're like the conversation you were talking about earlier. We've been friends, but we don't often hang out. But yeah, we've been great.
Our lives went in
Good vibes.
drastically different direction.
Yeah.
Where
Good
did it
vibes
start?
though, always. In Miami.
Down
And
in
how
South
long,
Beach.
How long ago was that?
Oh,
That was like
20,
12 years
14.
ago.
Yeah, 10, 12 years ago. Yeah. I moved to Miami Beach when I was 21. I think I was like just able to start going out. And
Why'd you move here? From Delaware?
so yeah, I lived in so I was born in Tampa.
Yeah.
I lived there until I was around 6. If I'm not mistaken, it's kind of stupid. I can't like really remember because I was a kid, but somewhere around 6. I lived in Delaware until I was 20. And then at that time I had been in a relationship for a long time. So I was like, you know what, man, I need to go back to where I was born, but I didn't want to go to Tampa because it seemed kind of boring for a 20-year-old. So went to Miami.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And I had a job at the shop that we worked at before I got there. I had sent my portfolio, made sure I was good, made sure I didn't have to like search when I was down there because I knew how cutthroat of an environment it was. And at the time, my boys were only letting me stay on like their kitchen floor until I got
Not
paid
even the
and shit.
couch, kitchen floor?
There was no couch.
Okay,
They
yeah.
had like
Makes
a
sense.
square kitchen that was like 10 feet by 10 feet
This
with
is
2
all
bedrooms on
you.
the side.
Yeah.
And they were like, you could stay on the floor part of the kitchen if you want, but
Right.
like you get 2 months and you got to be out. And my boy's friend that was like living there was dead serious. Like he was nice, but he was wouldn't let me stay for 2 months in a day.
He had boundaries.
Yeah. So in that 2 months, you know, I needed the job when I got there so I could take care of that. So, you know, in the beginning, I was super thankful for it, you know, and I still kind of am, to be honest. You know, I know we've had ups and downs there, and you know, the owner, we don't have to say names. I'm not interested in downing people, but it's just it was a rough environment for real tattooers, you know, like
The shop was.
yeah, it was rough. Like we made it easy for each other, you know what I'm saying? We were all cool, but you know, behind the scenes of it all was very corporate like, and you know, there's a place for that. I'm not bitching about it, you know, but I wasn't used to it.
Right.
I don't know if he liked it, you know. We were all kind of questionable of it and the way it ran, but had the 2 nicest, best places on the strip. So I tried to just stay in my lane,
It
you know. Like,
started out pretty cool.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I think when it opened,
And this is where you guys met, at this shop.
yes.
Okay.
Was I at 14 when you got to 16, or were you?
Yeah, because 16 was a new shop. It was a new location
You
that
and
he
Vic
just
were
opened.
there.
He built it out. Like the owner wanted to make something kind of similar to this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where it's, it's nice lighting and, everything looks, modern and, it was very South Beach. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Looking back on it, it was well done.
It was.
For his side of the business. Very well
The
presented.
booths were small as shit.
They were. They were.
It was like about as wide as
14
this
was
table.
good. 14 was nice though. Those
Yeah.
booths were a bit bigger.
If I had to compare, I would say it's similar to Borrowed and Model Citizen, right?
Okay.
Because like the 14th Street store looked more like, I guess, traditional tattoo shoppy.
Yeah.
I mean, not like a bunch of flash on the walls, like
yeah.
an old school shop, but like, it was a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? And then the 16th Street store was more like I guess he was trying to, go for like a high end look.
Sure.
It was closer to like Lincoln Road.
So you had already worked there.
I had just gotten hired there in 2012 after my daughter was just born.
Yeah.
I had left the Hard Rock.
And Dan came after you?
I moved there when I
We got there around the same time,
I
right?
was
Okay.
21. So what's that? 31. Yeah, 13 years ago. So yeah, 2011. I moved there, and then 2000. Yeah, I mean, I had the job already. So
Right.
right around the time that you got there, I got
Yeah,
there. We were just
'cause
at different
Vic-
places, and you were.
Vic was at 16th Street before me. He had gone
Yes.
down.
He was kind of
before
like
me.
the head of the shop there.
Right, because he left the Hard Rock 1st,
Mm-hmm.
and then once I had my issue with them, Vic was like, "Yo, just come down here. We'll work together." So I was like, "Yeah, bet." You know, what
I remember
mean?
you guys having like the crowd there, like the artists that like I wanted to get to. Like it was a thing where like 14th Street and 16th Street, same brand, same shop. Like doesn't matter. You were just walking up near Lincoln or you were walking down a little bit. Like that was the only like, okay, we're gonna capture both clienteles. But it also was like 16th Street was the place you wanted to get to.
Gotcha.
Like if you were at 14th, my like promotion was going to 16th.
Gotcha.
They were like, hey, man, like, you're doing great. Like, we're going to send you over to 16th. And I was like, holy shit, like, this is, like, so beautiful. It's like the mansion of tattoo shops, not size-wise, but just the look was so perfect. And the artists were great. Joe, Vic. Like, I forget who else was there.
Horatio was there.
Horatio. The management, at times we've all had issues with it. But looking back, I'm thankful for the experience. I mean, I don't know that I enjoyed it all, but it molded me in a way that I needed that, But, it was well put together. Like the manager sold the tats for us. They sold them at a high dollar amount for someone like myself who had never experienced that before. I was coming from doing shit when I was there. I was only 3 years into tattooing, 4 years maybe, and 3 of that was an apprenticeship. So 1 year. I had only worked 1 year in Delaware full time before I moved to Miami. So wild experience, bro. Like at the end, we found out it was like, okay, this isn't necessarily what we wanted, but throughout that whole time, I mean, being 22, 23, 24 and working there, it was like definitely thankful for that experience. Like best shop other than Miami Ink on the Strip as far as artists went.
Right.
Whatever other opinions we have of up top, it doesn't matter anymore. But it was definitely the most sought after shop. I mean, by advertisement, by walking, just by looking at it when you walk by. People were going to other shops, of course. It was flooded in those years with all the spring breaks and the ultras.
There was like 30 shops just on that strip.
Yes. So everybody was
competition.
eating, but we seemed to stand out a bit.
Were you happy to get the job there?
When I first got there, yeah, because one, I was getting a much larger percentage.
Were you
than
coming
I was
from
getting.
the Hard Rock?
I was coming from the Hard Rock.
Okay.
And
That was probably tough to leave.
it
The Hard Rock.
kind of,
Isn't
but
how
not
cool it
really,
was.
because I see what you did there. But yeah, I mean, keep in mind when I started working at the Hard Rock, I didn't know shit either. Like, because my experience in the tattoo world before that was apprenticing under this biker dude, us going and opening up our own shop, and it was like a really local thing. Like we weren't going to conventions. We weren't like in
was
the
like small
industry.
circle.
Yeah, it was two people small. You know what I mean? And like
Small line.
local small town tattooing.
Yeah.
We tattooed the people in town, and then like the word of mouth that got to the surrounding area. No internet, no social media, nothing. You know what I mean? So then I went from that 2 years with him to him going down like the hard drug road, which relapsing basically, because he was clean when I was apprenticing under him. And then he fell back into it once we opened up our own shop together. And that's when I left and got into construction. So then for those 8 years, I was pretty much a construction worker who scratched out of his living room. Yeah. Like I was still tattooing. And it was a pretty nice setup because my mom worked in a hospital, so she got me an autoclave. So everything was clean. Like I had my own like room, and I knew how to set things up. Like, it was close to a professional shop setup as you could get in a living room. Or I would go to people's houses and do it too. But I didn't come back to tattooing professionally until coming down here and like getting that job at the Hard Rock. Right. You know what I mean? At which point I had no idea what artists were getting paid.
Sure.
What kind of splits you were getting.
That and just how broad your audience is now. You know what I'm saying? Like you were in that small town tattooing. Right. Like even I was in Delaware, very small. Like this town's called Newport. It's like 4 miles wide. And then you got to tattoo Delaware, which is 2 hours long and 45 minutes wide. It's like, but great clientele. Sure. These people are consistent. They have families. They've stayed there forever. They have no desire of moving to a place like LA, Cali, New York, Miami. Yeah. So they're saving their money. They're splurging on things like tattoos like that. They're not always on vacation. They're not buying designer. There's no shit there like that at all. There's not even a mall where you can get anything expensive. So if you have a hobby, that might be one of them, getting tattooed.
That makes sense. Yeah. Sounds good.
Whereas Miami or Fort Lauderdale, you get a huge audience from all over the world and you get to spread your name. But, these people might not be around for 10 sessions.
And there's like so many
options. There's a lot of get them in, get them out.
Yeah.
That was the mentality, right?
Yeah. And it went, I don't know if the whole industry kind of seemed to shift like that. Like it used to be Flash, and sorry to like move backwards for a second, but I think it's a very, very interesting topic that I've kind of always wanted to talk about the mend of is how at least me and how old are you?
32.
Okay,
Sorry,
I'm 35.
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm going to be 50 next
okay,
July.
but you're still
49.
in, when you got to Salvation and when you got to the Hard Rock, you were still in like the newer generation of tattooing, but understood the old generation because you started in that.
Right, yeah.
I always find it very interesting to talk about the mesh of the two because I started apprenticing when things were old school.
Right.
I got tased in my apprenticeship. I got beat up. I got, they made me walk to the mall and walk back and, hazed as fuck. Yeah, hazed. And like I did every one of my, the guy that apprenticed for me's drawings and stencils, my entire apprenticeship. He never drew a tattoo.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that was so traditional. Like
I
was like, wow, like this is what people do. So then to the new school, and I hear all the like complaining and all the banter and all the, maybe some praising of like the old school guys to the new school guys, but I think it's a great mesh, bro. Like I took a little bit from the old school and I have a lot of respect for where it started, and I also have a lot of understanding mutually for where it is. Like, is everything what we all wanted out of the industry? Maybe not, maybe it went a little commercial. I mean, but the evolution of anything is like that, and if you don't ride with the tide, like you're just going to stay angry. And I hate to see like the older generation of tattooers angry because like I don't think anybody in new generation is even thinking to offend them. It's more like, oh, well, I didn't even know what you did back when you started 30 years ago. And I have an iPad now and I have social media and I have a look to uphold and I can show that look and I can advertise that brand. And because you guys couldn't or didn't, now I'm a problem, and like I can see both ends. I love talking about how or why it bothers people that tattooing is the way it is now. And I also can see some of the flaws and why those people would be misunderstanding of it because I started in that just like you did. So that's always been a cool like cohesion for me to think about. It's like I'm not really mad at the new guys who do everything AI and the new kids who are 18 that are way better than I was at that time because their knowledge of things can be so much more expanded because we all have, well, not even we, just the higher up guys in the industry have so much to teach these younger guys that naturally they're going to learn quicker.
Yeah.
And then they get mad or upset that they're learning quicker and doing like these weird things to get clients and all that. But bro, like, what are you going to do?
One, it's way more accessible, right? Like even when we came up, like the information was still guarded.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and you had to get your mentor to print out a fucking like machine, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to YouTube, Google, whatever. And I think the only people, and really the only people succeeding are the ones that are combining both.
Right.
I think that there are new people that are missing out on all the old school line of thinking, which is like being on time for work, you know, working hard, being good with your clients, you know, putting in the hours, like this backbone that maybe not the correct way, but was still instilled in us and in our apprenticeship. And then the old guys who are not changing with the times. Yeah. You know, like, like don't get mad at the AI. And it's still a fucking reference. Like advertise on your social media. It's so sad when I'm walking around a convention with someone younger, and like I'm not gonna say any names, but like, and I see these OGs, and like they don't even know who the fuck they are.
Yeah, and it's like, do you knock them for it? Like they've only been in this and cared about it for as long as they've been in it and cared about it. Like now, if you introduce them to these people and you let these people know how much of a legend these guys are, you can gain that respect. But I think it was like we had both, like you said. Like I'm doing all the old school things, right? Like I don't use an iPad for my stencils. I hand stencil. I still do everything on my laptop, no iPad, nothing like that. So it's like just that in general, just a very small example of like treating your clients right, being on time, you know, having, you know, building kind of like a friendship relationship with them throughout their sessions, you know, and now it's so rushed and so, you know, commercially. And so like, hey man, like, you know, I wear this and I have this and I got it from tattooing and I'm going to show you, but I don't care about either one of them. It's cool, bro. Like, it's cool. That's how you're getting clients. Like, you know, or maybe not. Like, but, yeah, I love to see that old school mentality mix with the new, because it's making a new superpower.
Yeah.
If you got enough wherewithal, old school, to respect your clients, know what you're doing, know what you're using, know why you're doing it, you know, be respectful of your elders and shit like that. But you also are on social media, flashing your shit, you know, traveling, showing people what else you do other than tattooing. That mesh is way more powerful than one or the other. You know, it's like, damn, he does everything. He does all of it. And like, I cannot like him because he's, you know, younger and doing it weird. But I got to respect him. You know, and I feel like a lot of them, they still don't have that respect. And a lot of these new school guys still don't have the respect that they need for the old school that we have, you know? So I never like really, I guess the point, I never really knock either side. Like the new guys don't know any different. The old guys don't know any different. You know, the middle ground is whoever's going to open their mind up enough to just combine them.
Most adaptable.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, I think there's room for all of it though, right? I mean, as the industry expands and you start getting like with any artistic medium, any kind of industry like that, there winds up being like subgroups, subgenres and stuff, and each one kind of experiences a little bit of success at different times and stuff. And I think like I think it's important to respect what came before, you know, show props. Like I think knowing your history only helps you, you know what I mean, in anything, like tattooing or otherwise, but like knowing what came before can only help you in your current knowledge. But if you think about it, like, you know, old school guys or whatever, like the new generation don't really owe you shit. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, except maybe respect, you know what I mean? But like, you have to do what, you know, you adapt to the circumstances you're in. You work within the parameters that exist, right? Like, it's not 1990. It's not 1950. You know what I mean? Like, it's 2024 and people are using wireless machines. It's easier. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's become easier on us. Like, the equipment has gotten better. The inks have gotten better. Like the art itself is elevated. Say what you want about the TV shows or whatever, the social media stuff. The art itself is better than it's ever been. People are getting way better quality.
More often.
And the stigma is going away slowly but surely.
Yeah, it was you're making me think, because we were just at something. I was sitting with an artist that had been around for a while, and the question came up, what do you think the industry will look like in 5 and 10 years?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And to be honest, at first I was like, that's a boring question. Right. And I'm like, whatever. So like, they're like answering it down the line. The first artist is like, I can't really say, I don't know. My guess is, and the next artist is like, I'm only speculating here. And then the last artist, was like, isn't it obvious what's going to happen? Like, he was 100% sure. And what he was saying, and it made a lot of sense. I'm just going to like repeat what he said. It's not my idea, but I liked it. He said, I'm going to tell you guys something that you might not know. He said, none of you are special. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
This might be news to you. He was like, this is a craft, though. Like, we do a craft. And there have been a million crafts before us, whether it's like woodworking, building houses, restaurants, and like he's listing them. He's like, they all had their peaks, like, oh, this is the new thing, restaurant in every corner. Oh, like I'm going to build furniture, for the king. And all of a sudden I'm this, amazing craftsman or painter, the churches, cathedrals.
Right.
They had their peak. Mm-hmm. And then it got popular and it blew up. And there's so many people getting involved because there's money, fame, opportunity, and they get in. And then what happens? Like, it's spread thin and it
gets
relaxes.
diluted, yeah.
And the example he gave was like McDonald's for like food. Like, I'm going to do it better, faster, whatever. So he was explaining that in a lot of other countries, like they have the immigrants coming over, to that country where they're making more money. So, okay, in their country, they charge $20 an hour. They come over to the country, they charge $100 an hour. They're making 5 times what they were making. Mm-hmm. But the going rate is $200 an hour. So now they're undercutting everyone, maybe without even knowing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And being really good sometimes.
And being really good. Why? Yeah. Because they have nothing to do but sit in their house and avoid the fucking war and just do sick tats all day.
Yeah.
Right.
So then they come to these other countries, and like in Germany right now, like, they're just renting hotel rooms and they're going out on the street and they're like, do you want this tattoo? $200, 8-hour tattoo. Wow. And they're like, yeah, and to come up to the hotel room. So like, what's happening? The McDonald's is being formed, right? And this is like all over, this is happening in Europe, all over Europe. So what will pretty much happen, he was saying what will pretty much happen is there's going to be like an upper and a lower class. Like with any economy, really only the middle class is affected.
Right.
It's kind of spread thin. So you're going to have the option, like, do I want to be the McDonald's or do I want to be the Michelin star chef?
Right.
And right now there's such an abundance of the middle class. Like, I can be somewhere in between, and that will probably shrink or come down.
Right.
Yeah.
But when the middle class is like huge, anyone can come in and there's opportunity for everyone. So he thinks it'll just kind of like become divided, where we'll see all these pop-ups of like cheap, because, in any economy, who's not affected? The rich are never affected.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you're like top tier, rich get richer, who else isn't affected? The poor.
Poor, yeah.
They stay poor, whatever it is. So you like appeal to both of those audience. But dude, he was just like going off about this, and I'm like, oh, he can tell the future. Like, it made sense,
Yeah, it does. I mean, if you look at history, anything's a circle, right? Like, and like that's tough. I have never really thought about that side of it. Because in fact, I feel like I have like 10 years left, so it's like, what am I looking forward to? Like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and soon I'll, I won't have to worry about that. But I see what you're saying. I see it going that way. It's what always blows my mind about high-end products, whether you're talking about like these upper echelon guys, this is always sold out, bro.
Hold up. Why'd you look at me when you said you had 10 years left, bro? I feel like that was a shot.
Wait, what did he say?
No. Maybe it was because you've seen me at the beginning of my
10
career.
years left.
Yeah, not to live, dude.
He's like, right?
It's just that too. But no, I think
Maybe 5?
Yeah.
Jesus, bro. Okay.
It's
Go ahead.
It's always sold out.
Yeah.
It's always in demand.
Yeah.
I look at houses on Airbnb down here, $1,500 a night, gone.
Yeah.
$300 a night, 500 options.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, it never ceases to amaze me, bro. Like, it really doesn't. You walk around thinking that, and still saying that, oh, like, who can afford that? Yet I sell a product no one can afford. Airbnb has houses no one can afford.
Right.
all this shit no one can afford. Like, bro, people do it every day, all day, more than they do the middle class, lower class thing, because these guys have expendable cash, expendable cards, you know, like just do whatever, whenever you want. And I think it was like the lack of fear in the artists that charge high rates to just explore that and see if that was true in our realm. Yeah. And it just kept going and going and going. And
but
I hope he doesn't mind me like name dropping, but Eric Marcinison.
Yeah.
I mean, just levels above like most, if not all, these black and gray guys. But more than in even the tattoo talent, it's like the mentality and the moving the masses with new ideas and new ways of, you know, shading or new ways of booking or new ways of this. It's like constantly evolving in that upper echelon tier. Well, the lower echelon kind of stays the same of like, they might never change anything they're doing about their business and it might never exponentially grow. But now you got artists that have retainer fees like lawyers. You know, and that's what it's coming to. That's a new mentality.
What are like some of these changes? Because I actually don't know that you're like talking about.
Well, I hate to say it because I feel like I might be giving away tea, you know. But I mean, I guess it's public knowledge. You can go on his website and there's retainers for each tier. Now, I don't want to call the numbers out. I'll talk about it later because, you know, that's his business. But yeah, absolutely. So large project, you want one session at a time. It's one rate, you know, but the retainer is huge. It's a lawyer. You give me all my big money up front if you're really serious. And then throughout the year, you just call me and we line up appointments all year. That's your year of tattooing.
So is it like almost like a deposit?
Yeah, the deposit is the retainer, though. You're paying in full up front.
Right.
You know, and then you get your sessions after, you know, per when they're available to you or per when you can travel out or whatever works for you. But he already has the bread. You know, he's already insured that money. And that is a new way of, hey, like, we're not going to start a large project and then you're going to back out 4 sessions in, or I'm going to see you 3 years later. And if you do that, I have the
is there
funds
like a
already.
Time limit on it? Like you have to get
no, I think that's explained in maybe the consult.
Yeah.
And the consult costs money as well. Okay. You know, even to just speak and not get a tattoo, which I think is brilliant, bro. It's not what everyone wants to hear. Let's be real. But this movement of the needle is what I'm talking about. The old school guys, they ain't gonna like that.
Yeah,
they're gonna be like, "What's this guy, a fucking lawyer?" Like, yeah, sure. You know what I'm saying? Sure. He thought about it. People thought about it enough to say, "Hey, we could convert this way of doing business over into this career."
Right.
It's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, you either pay $100,000 for a lawyer and you get to sit in front of him for $1,000 an hour until it gets $100,000. Or you can move that right over into tattooing.
Well, I mean, bro, we see, like, even with the anesthesia, like, we see people dropping 6 figures on a tattoo.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely, and for a day.
Right, and that, you can make that argument all day long, like, where's the cap? Not only on price, but on procedure and anything. Yeah. It's like, you know, we sell pieces, or we see pieces of art being sold for, like, millions of dollars. Like, really, what's the difference? Let's say I'm saying, yo, I'm charging, you know, 100,000 a tattoo. I only have to find maybe 1-2 clients a year to be profitable. Right. You know what I'm saying? And if I really want to take it even farther and make tons of money, let's say 1 a month, and like you said with the Airbnb, like it's out there. Yeah, if you can provide some kind of service or market well enough to show people that it's a value, you could do that. I really think anyone could. We've seen people on the internet doing garbage tats and make it cool and sell more. Remember when that was a huge thing like 5 years ago?
Ignorant tattoos or whatever.
Yeah, that's like another round of it coming back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting to me to see people exploring like where they could take this. Do you see a lot of kickback from those new ideas and new procedures? I don't know if you have any experience.
From audiences or myself in like the circle I'm in?
Either.
Nah, man. Like if you really have respect for this game, like you respect both sides. Like I know that is going to move the needle. Like soon there's going to be people doing that. And again, I hope I'm not giving away, like, I mean, again, it's public. It's on the website. So it's like I could just tell people to go to his website to book and they'd easily find out how it works. Right. But, you know, most people hadn't thought about that. You know what I mean? And like the kickback or the feedback on that is mostly like, holy shit, that's a great idea. You know, now the hater in people would say like, oh, who the fuck's going to pay that? I mean, bro, if bro gets 10 clients, it's $1 million.
Right.
Who cares? Why? Do you think he's thinking about that?
Right.
Think he gives a fuck what you think about when or why or whatever? He's still got clients, or, you know, let's not talk about like people still have clients that'll pay them $5K a day.
Right.
They just want to test the waters with the 100K retainer. It's not like they'll only do that.
Right.
But that's what they're showing they will only do. Yeah. Now, if they have a guy like myself or someone else come in and call them and be like, hey, man, can I get tatted? And you've already gotten tattooed before and you've had a relationship, you're probably not going to get that. You probably get something more reasonable. But I love the test in the waters, bro, because it's the only way you can figure out whether it's game or not. And
it's pushing the limits, right?
So I get, my question would be like, how do you get to that point? And I'm not necessarily like looking for an answer, but because the other argument could be like, okay, I hear you guys, or not argument, but question could be like, I hear you guys saying that, you know, the rich are not affected. Like if you can lock into the clientele of the rich, whether it's bad economy, good whatever, like they seem to be unaffected. So that might be easy for like us to say, you know, people that have gotten to the point where maybe we are targeting that audience, but like, how do you get to that point? Mm-hmm. You know? And I know that like your story is somewhat of an explanation or one way to do that. Cause we're talking about when you two met and like you're young, 3 years into tattooing. I'm guessing you didn't really know much. I'm guessing your clientele was very different. Yeah, very different. I want to kind of get into that process little bit. You said you were there for a couple years at the shop? Yeah,
I was there for a couple years.
And you were not tattooing famous people? You did not have connections like that?
No, it was kind of like my connections were strictly like nightlife and fun. Right. Based on doing tattoos. But the celebrity clientele, the athletes, that didn't come in really until I opened my own shop. And I'll let you finish before I get into it, but I feel like most of, and this is just me being honest, most of my experiences getting to tattoo people like upper echelon was just simply right place, right time. Yeah. I don't feel special about it. I never really did. It was a great experience for me. Don't get me wrong. It was mind blown that these people would ask me to tattoo them when I didn't even really realize I had any type of name. Yeah. And maybe I didn't. Maybe it was just like a straight up like, hey, I like that. Get him here. Yeah. You know, it didn't have to be like, oh, I've heard about that kid before, you know. A lot of like, maybe even the wrong things, you know, like I was in the club 5 days a week. That's how I got to tattoo these guys. Like I was the only tattoo artist that was out that much and that in people's faces to where like they would even call me to do that, you know? And Nunez was the first to get the call for Bieber. Oh, really? And he missed it at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's the only reason I got that, because I worked with Chris Nunez and I was up till 4 in the morning and I was probably
like, this kid's up.
I was probably out with Bieber, not with him, but like at the same place at the same time. So they're like, oh, you're going to be awake. Like, and you don't do drugs. So like you'll be up, come do this. And again, the same thing with Future. Like my boy that, you know, was creative directing his albums at the time, just had a tattoo on me in the back of his forearm. He's shooting and Future's like, yo, who did your work? Fly him out here. Nothing like I became this big name and then all these guys were chasing me, which is like contrary to what most people think. And I'm always honest about it, bro. Like I'm not going to say it was super lucky because I met the right people and I was doing the right things while doing the wrong things. Right. And it just, you know, cohesively kind of walked myself into that. But yeah, it's, I think back to your question of how you get there, man, it's such a different journey for so many people, bro. Like, I feel like I made the journey based on being very social. And let's say some tattoo artists do it by being very mystique-like and antisocial. Yeah. It's like, how much does this guy charge? Where does he work? How many people is he tattooing for 10K a session? Like that mystique makes you
nobody's ever seen his face.
Yeah, for real, bro. And like, again, just to go back, like, you know, I got homies that were driving Rolls Royces and tattooing before we were thinking about how to charge 2K a day, you know, like just been doing it, been like making everybody else around them like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, how did you reach this? And it's again, it could be said both ways. It's like you're either really outgoing and people just can't stop, but magnetize to your energy and just pay you that money because they have it. You're in that right circle. Or you're so quiet and you charge so much and you do such good work that people just want to go find out. They don't even know if you are the best in the world because they're just a client, but they just heard this guy charges a lot of money and his work is phenomenal. And the experience is phenomenal, and he's doing the same shit that you are doing as a wealthy person. So you can kind of relate when you're sitting there. You can have a good conversation.
No,
right.
Exactly. That's badass.
So I think it is too when those upper echelon people can feel comfortable sitting in a conversation with someone of a similar level. Like you don't have to be a multimillionaire, but you are the top of what your career is. Just like they are doing really well in what their career is. The conversation becomes interesting. Whereas like, I don't know at some points if it was interesting for a future to sit with me and get tattooed. Like there's not much to say to me. I haven't done a lot. I'm not rich. I'm not super experienced. And like, what do you say to a kid like me? It's more like, what do I ask him? Yeah. He can't have this comfortable, like, oh, so like when you were on the jet last, like I've never done that
Like you have
shit.
all this in common.
Right. We don't have anything in common. So it's like me just like prying about like my favorite celebrity or my favorite rappers that I've ever. It's just like, oh man, like I looked up to you so much, shit like that. And like I didn't even want to be corny when I was tattooing, so I didn't even ask that. Yeah. And if you wait for that connection to come, like it probably won't because there's just no relatability. It's just a talent versus a talent, and you guys come together, do some shit, and roll out. Yeah. So yeah, man, like how to get there. I think there's so many ways, and I think that. Like there's everyone, you can carve out a different path and make it so many different ways. But I really do think it all comes back to being genuine. Yeah. And if you're not super genuine, and I don't mean the opposite of genuine, if you're not like a genuine, like homey, happy type of person, you just got to be like really strict about your business and like ask for what you want for long periods of time until people understand that you're serious. Or you be this very nice guy who, like I said, people magnetize to, and they're just happy to pay you for no reason. They just want to throw money at you because your vibe is nice. Yeah. Either way, I think is great. And I've watched both sides of it be done, and I've seeing the evolution of pricing. When do you raise your price? Sure. Like, is it? It's a big question. Is it when you're 3 months booked out? Is it when you're 6 months booked out? Is that when you can't keep up with your emails, so the demand is there? Like,
or you've been tattooing for a certain amount of time or whatever.
Or the new school generation, which a lot of the old school guys, don't like, which I understand both sides. Is like, or do I just up my price because I know I can get it because everyone else is doing it? Right. Exactly. And then it creates the middle class. Yeah. Then it creates between $1,000 and $2,000. Right. So you're not getting a $200 tat or a $500 tat. You're not getting charged $10,000. You're right down the middle. There's plenty of people to go to, for no specific reason, other than maybe they're close to you or maybe you've heard a referral. But yeah, it's a extensive topic, I think.
How do you decide your pricing and like when to raise, when to not?
To be honest, demand. I think I think it's always been the demand. I think it's always been too, and maybe this is wrong, but like at a shop, like the owner usually charges the most, right? So like it's been great for me as a shop owner and my partner to be able to bring guys into our shop and just immediately raise their rate for them. Yeah. So like me as an artist, I raise based on demand or based on the market, really. Like if I keep it, dude, I have a manager. If we keep getting, 90% no's and 10% yeses, we might stay on that for a month or two. Yeah. And like, you might have to lower it a few $100s, like I've noticed that the number 3 scares people. Yeah. The number 29 doesn't. Right. It's like having something that's $29.99. It's not quite 30. You just don't see the 3. It's $30. Right. So the difference there is not much, but the mental difference is huge for people that don't spend $3,000, on stuff regularly. But for some reason, 28 is like, oh, now I'm in the running. Right. So like, but for the younger guys, they come in charging $500 a tat, and we're like, no. Right. I'm here. My business partner's here. The guy under us is here. So you're gonna just be here. Right. By way of being here. Right. Like, and people won't care. Right. Because now you're the lowest at our shop. Now you're the lowest charging, but you're making $1,000 more a day than you ever have. So yeah, I guess it's circumstantial. If you have the ability to raise other people's rates, do it for them respectfully, like if you have that, power at your shop or.
Right. Well, if you're going to like hire, cause we do that too. Like if you're going to hire someone you know, for us, and I'm sure for you too, it's because you fit. Like your level is good enough to be here.
Right.
Right. So out of respect for you and everyone that's here, charge the same. You know, because if you're too low, you're either going to undercut everyone or everyone's going to think you're shit. And that's why you're so cheap.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, fit in, you know, get with it where everyone else is.
Yeah.
Maybe not like all the way to the top or whatever, but I totally understand that thing.
And if you're going to be real about it and you give the opportunity for someone to charge 18 when you charge 26, just be ready to lose some clients. Like that's the thing. Don't act like you're cool with it and then go say that people are scalping you or you know, taking your clients. You gave them the opportunity. You should feel proud of that. You know what I mean? And you should be working harder on your end to keep a new clientele going at that price and make people not want to go pay $1,000 less.
Right.
That's just your job after that. Once you put somebody on, your job is to hold your position. You know?
Right.
Because after that, they're like 2,800 or 1,500. And visually, because they're not, you know, of a tattooer mentality or in that demographic, they're going to say, well, I don't see any difference.
Right.
I'm going to get 16.
Yeah.
And I love Dan.
Right.
But I just don't, you know, I don't see much of a difference between the work. So I'm happy with this. Yeah. And that's what you have to be ready for.
Right.
And you don't get mad at that. I mean, again, if it's your shop, you're obviously getting a small cut of it, which is, you know, great. But it's just wanting to see your guys win, really. Like, I hope my younger guys charge more than me, and they're already damn near as good. Like, let's be honest. Right. Some of the people in my shop, like Gracie, for example, she's 22 years old, 21 years old, like crushing it. I mean, by 35, where I'm at, should be well past all of us. Rate, talent, you know, and a true artist at that. If I could say one thing and just be real, I've never, like, you know, Joe, gone home and painted and drew all the time. That's just a real thing for me. Like, I consider myself a tattooist more than I do a tattoo artist. And I've always been comfortable with that title because, you know, this is my talent. It's what I'm good at. It's what I love.
Yeah.
But I can't claim to be some, you know, fine artist like a lot of these guys are. And that's where my respect comes from. It's like, if you draw all your shit all the time and you're booked all the time and you created a style people love and you've been able to do that for 15 years, 20 years, and you've raised a family and all that shit just based on your art, I got way more respect for you than a guy like myself who, I'm a human photocopier, bro. Right. I'm great at Photoshop. I'll put whatever you want together. I'll mesh it together. I'll AI it together. I'll do whatever you need. And then I'll photocopy that on you so that I know if you liked it on paper, you'll like it on skin. Right. But there's not this like crossfade of information there like a lot of guys. Yeah. So again, bro, it's just kind of humbling yourself knowing there's so much out there, bro. There's so many different aspects to every part of this, you know, and every part of every business that, you know, I don't take much to heart. Like,
that's really, you know, nice to hear too. Like, you own, like, you know where your strengths are, you own that shit. And I think you're a shop owner, and like you guys are like a few years younger than me, a little bit, but I mean, but like that generation of shop owners is one thing I've noticed. Vic out in Vegas also, who we worked with back in the day. Shout out to Vic, by the way. He's killing it. Absolutely. Yeah. One of my homies that I love more than anything.
Never changed.
But all of you guys seem to be the type of shop owners that really look out for their artists. And that wasn't the case when we were doing it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The owners were out for themselves. The artists were going to try to make your cut as small as possible. Mm-hmm. You have no kind of like say in what goes on in the shop, you know, whatever. Like what I've noticed, what Vic did out at his shop in Vegas, sounds like you're doing the same thing. And now I know from experience, like, you guys all try to elevate everybody in the shop. You know what I mean? And try to like promote them and, you know, like make sure that their game is stepping up and they're charging more and they're working on their things and they're trying to present themselves in a professional manner and stuff. And I think that's important. I think back in the day, it was almost like this tendency to like, oh, you apprentice somebody and then you treat that person like your bitch for a while until you feel like, all right,
until you get tired of it.
Right. You know what I mean? And normally that would breed like resentment in the apprentice and then be like, fuck this guy. I'm going to go and open up my own shop. Or sometimes that might have been the kick in the ass that person needed. And then that person goes on and becomes very successful. I mean, you know, however you get to where you're going is how you get there. But like, I think watching like this kind of like, you know, middle of like, not the new generation, not the old school, but like that in between of shop owners and artists and stuff like that. I feel like that has elevated the industry.
It definitely has,
a
man.
lot.
It
like,
definitely
in
has.
addition to like all the, like, you know, TV popularity and all that stuff too. But like, it seemed like there was this movement almost in like the, you know, 2010s, 2015s, like in that era where like the atmospheres at conventions were changing, artists were becoming more open and sharing information and doing seminars. Like I went to the Paradise Gathering in 2014.
Colorado?
Yeah.
That was there.
Keystone.
Yep, exactly.
And it was one of the most amazing experiences I'd ever been to, because like
so cool.
that's where I met guys like Stefano. I met like Marcus Leonard from Germany, and like
and,
I met Tony Civarro there.
Sick.
And
like
all
the
these
legends were there.
Yeah, and they were all so cool. They were all like, "Yeah, man, come check out what I'm doing. Come sit in my booth while I, you know, do this fucking leg panel."
Very
on
big
somebody.
change from 5 years previous or 10 years previous.
Dude, you couldn't
to
even
that.
get near people's booths
No.
at times. We're like, get the fuck,
No.
don't look at what I'm doing.
And
You'll see it when it's done, kind of thing.
Touching back on just, you know, being down for your artists and stuff, I still think I could do a way better job, you know? Like, I think a lot of us get caught up in our own careers as well. And, like, once that person is there and settled in and making some money and they're happy, people tend to kind of let the advert go or the pushing your other artists go.
Yeah,
and I've you know, failed at that sometimes. In fact, I wish I had done a better job looking back on it of like, okay, we're going to promote you and shit like that. And we do, you know, but I don't know that it's had the pull that I would love it to have, you know, like, and I know a lot of guys can book people up, like, you know, and I feel like we've done a decent job, but, you know, we've had some turnaround, you know what I mean? Just like any shop, you know, I think people need growth, and, you know, sometimes two people butt heads or one person doesn't agree with what's going on in the shop. And it's really nothing personal, man. That's why I said you just got to take it all with a grain of salt. Like, we've had people leave our shop. We had 7 artists in the shop. You know what I mean? Like, we've had people leave. We've had people, you know, come in and out. And I think it's healthy. You know what I mean? Because I've watched all my people, you know, all my friends that have left throughout the 5 years, 2 or 3 people, and they're doing great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's, like you said, Joe, like the kick in the ass that they needed, like the frustration you had walking into, I don't know, my shop, I guess, or you wanted to change something. You needed that movement.
Right.
And now everything's more cordial than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And you're doing your thing on the same level that I was doing my thing. And you understand now why I told you what I told you and why I had these rules or these, you know, ramifications, whatever it is. And now you get to implement them on other people and feel what I have felt and, you know, feel the easiness or the difficulty of it, whatever one it was. And you gain more respect over years, bro, for every shop that you were at, that you left bad or good.
Absolutely.
You kind of understand little shit about what they were doing, and you might actually be implementing some of that without, you know, having agreed with it when you were in the mix and you weren't the owner.
Yeah.
And I loved seeing that, bro. Like, shout out to my boy Josh Johnson. He opened his own shop like 30 minutes from our shop in a different state. Like, that's respect in general. And like, some of my artists that were at my shop are now at his shop, you know. They needed a change. They wanted a change. Josh is a cool-ass dude. One person went there. A person at our shop was good friends with that person. They went there. Like, you can't really, like, be pissy, you know, too much. It doesn't really help you. Like, it just like in anything negative, if you just dwell on it, like, you're never going to get over it. Like, just forget about it, bro. People are people. We're tattoo artists, right? We're not fucking, we don't work at Bank of America. Like, we don't keep the same job for 38 years. We don't get the benefits to even want to stay there. You know, we get... you know, you have your little cubicle in some businesses, and here you're in a room with 5-6 people all talking about shit. You might disagree. You might not have the same personality.
Having fun.
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
daily basis.
Exactly. So it's like, the moving around and the changing of environments is much more normal.
Right.
You know, it's like if you show a resume to somebody in a corporate world and you have 16 locations on there in 5 years, they're not really going to be interested in that. It's like, oh, was this guy not meshing with the crowd? Was he unsure of him even wanting this job? Was he moving all the time? Is he consistent? For tattooing, it's like, we don't even look at that because it's expected. It's like, okay, I'm hiring you. I probably have 3 to 4 years with you tops. I'm going to try and teach you as much as I can, get you to a level that I can. And then I expect there to be some sort of good or bad kind of like disconnection, you know? And that's cool with me. I've done it 4 times.
Right.
You know, so like who am I to talk about when or why you can't leave or what you're feeling now? Like,
Right.
fuck it. Just do your thing. I did my thing and it turned out great. So.
All right. Model Citizen used to be cool before Alex started wearing it. Are you tired of being unattractive to everyone around you? Well, not anymore. With the Model Citizen apparel, you'll be beating them off with a stick. Finally, tattoo clothing that is actual quality, that I can wear around and feel good. For real though, the quality of these clothes is top notch. This is like nothing you've ever seen before with a tattoo company. This isn't some Gildan bullshit. These are quality, hand-picked clothing. They have everything from vintage styles, oversized clothes, modern tees. Go to themodelcitizen.com. Get them before Alex does. What was it like for you opening your first shop? Was that in the Miami one?
Yeah, that was Miami. Yeah, right in Wynwood, before Wynwood really became what it was. I think.
Was that after Salvation?
Yeah, right after Salvation. Actually, no. I'll backtrack a little bit. So Salvation led to. You remember Drew?
Drew?
Yeah.
No. Drew who?
Tall, blonde head kid. Did some neo and like some traditional, and was working with me at 14. Then came over to 16 with me. I'm not sure if you were still there, but you know.
I think that. I remember
skated
I think
to work every day. Yeah, like
yeah.
Okay, anyway,
was he like a roommate or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So it didn't.
Holy shit!
It didn't come until Drew went to get tattooed, I believe, at Handcrafted, which Chris Nunez opened.
Yeah.
After Miami Ink, and like when Ink Masters was big, so Drew got a job over there, and Nunez saw the portrait that I did on his arm and was like, "Who's that kid? Does he live here?" Okay, like, you know, I don't know if this is exactly how it went, but this is how I wanted it to go. So I think Drew said something along the lines of, well, like, you know, tell him if he needs a job, like, come on over, you know what I mean? So I come over and I'm talking to him and he's like, yo, you can start, blah, blah, blah. So that was kind of my slow exit to Salvation. Then after about 2 years there, I had just kind of asked him for my blessing to open up my own spot, you know what I mean? Like, I felt like great in that shop, but I was too irresponsible at the time to really be a fit. Like, I'd be late to appointments and show up and like someone else would be doing my client. Embarrassing, you know, like shit that like I was up till 6 a.m. partying and didn't make a 10, 11 appointment, you know what I mean? And like, just kind of like being young, bro, just young and inexperienced at like the maturity level, not necessarily tattooing. I was doing okay tattooing, but I wasn't carrying that like proper, you know, etiquette with me. And Nunez just pulled me aside and was like, bro, you could be one of the best in the world. He's like, but you got to stop doing this kind of shit. You got to calm down a little bit. You got to slow down a little bit. And I think you could really do something. So I did that for a while there, and it really helped me out. And then, you know, young, angsty person that I was, maybe a bit of ego, like I wanted to do this myself. I didn't want to go 50-50 anymore. And this is dude, I love Chris. I still talk to him, you know, when I was over at House of 1,000 Roses a few months ago doing a little guest spot with Panda and Matt, good friends of mine, and Chris was there. He was doing some work there, and dude, we're on great terms. But I think I thought at the time that working with a celebrity would get me what I wanted, and that's selfish. It gets him what he wants. You know, that was his drive and his goal, and worked for him. You know, it's not necessarily going to work for me, and I maybe felt like it was like going to be this handout. You know, and it came with a lot more work, and I just realized I wanted to do that work alone, you know, because I was getting to the point where I felt like I had the clientele. I could suffice it myself. People wouldn't care if I worked in the top of a hotel or the basement of, you know, wherever. So I went over to Wynwood, which was on, man, I think like Panther Coffee's on like 24th and 2nd Ave, and I was on 20th, which was like still the hood, bro. Like my shop had fences on either side.
No, I remember. Just
for the audience, like that's never seen it. Like I you didn't want to go across the street from my shop. Yeah, it was like that corner store.
Sick.
Literally sick. Like the zombies were there. Like it was Resident Evil next to my shop. But yeah, during the day, like we had to have the gates closed. Like you had a clicker. Like it wasn't great, but the inside was awesome. Like Tyler helped me build it out.
How did you pick that spot?
Well, you know, I was so excited to be near the action and so young that like any spot that I found, right? Fucking took what I could get in an area that was, I kind of knew was up and coming.
How old were you at the time?
26. 26, and had that shop for like 3 or 4 years with Tyler and Marco and Tori and all them. And like, I still love them guys, man. Like, I still talk to them here and there. I haven't seen them in actually, I tattooed Tori like 3 months ago here. But yeah, man, like everyone's doing well, right? Like everyone's doing everyone like really grew from all their experiences. And then, you know, from there, I was kind of just done with the lifestyle. You know, it wasn't the shop. It wasn't, you know, my lease was getting ready to be up on my shop. So I was like, you know what, man, like every time I go back to Delaware to do appointments for a few weeks, just like I do here now, the opposite, all the feedback was like, you should come up here and open a shop. Yeah. There's no one else that talks about, you know, anyone else but you and your business partner. Right. Or my soon-to-be business partner, you know, and like a few other guys. They're like, you would kill it, you know.
Is your business partner a tattooer?
Yeah, Jeezy. Mark Johnson.
Okay,
that's
cool.
my business partner. Shout out Mark, by the way.
Real quick before we hop over it though, just because it's so interesting to me, like being so young and like opening the first shop.
Sure.
I mean, what was going through your head? My guess is it's like, okay, I have some experience with other shops. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Like, what did you want to build?
What we built first was a collective.
Yeah.
It wasn't me taking a percentage from anybody. This was guys that I felt in their demographic and genre were better than me.
Well, because I thought because I think I was like 23, 24 the first time I went to that shop. Mm-hmm. And to me, it was a very new concept. Like I hadn't really seen, maybe I'd heard, but I hadn't seen anything like that.
Sure.
And like, just to give you like my experience.
Yeah, please.
I think
that's awesome.
I went with Dizzy, I think. He was like, yo, you got to meet these guys. You got to meet Marco, Tyler, Dan. And I like went in and it was like private studio. And you guys had that like little living room.
Yep.
And I remember there was like a bong on the table. And I was like, that's sick. Like, they're just doing whatever the fuck they want here. Yeah, and I heard that it was like a collective. I was like, that's so cool. It felt like kind of like mutual respect, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I remember thinking like even knowing it was in the hood, to me, I was like, wow, this is like kind of upscale. You guys had like the Edison bulbs and the wood.
Yeah, the wood.
I was like, this is cool. And then like great artists. I remember sitting with Marco and he was explaining the Grays. You remember the Grays?
Yeah, thanks, the Grays.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
He was like, this is the shit.
Andre
like,
Malcolm shit.
Yeah, you need to use this. Because I left and I bought the Grays and I left the shop. But I was like, this is new. Like it doesn't feel, like it felt very modern.
Homie.
Yeah.
I wanted that, dude. Like there was a huge fucking beanbag chair in there, 6-foot beanbag chair. Like if your client brought somebody, like go to bed, you know, like, you know, we'd have the apprentice hoverboarding around giving us dabs during the tats. Like, was that the greatest thing to do looking back? I don't know. I don't know how many people walked in there and got hot boxed out. We would just smoke the entire shop out, no separate rooms. It was an open square. And it was it was dope, man. Like I didn't leave handcrafted and say, I want to go take other people's money. I left saying I wanted to make more of my own. So when I got in there, it was like, I knew I could survive off my own shit. I knew I wasn't going to be able to charge Tyler and Marco. I knew it was a privilege to work with them guys. For me to be 26 and them to be my elders and also more in the game than me and choose to come work with me. It said a lot to me about their, you know, their character. And hopefully it said a lot about mine. You know, that's why they would, you know, because I know Marco's like real tattooer, bro. Yeah. He don't like, you know, mess with the commercially stuff. He loves doing the tradition. He loves working in New York at the tattooer shops, you know? And I wasn't like that. I was more like, you know, this like hotshot, like celeb guy who's always out at the clubs and completely different personalities, you know? And I respect that now. Now I look at it like, damn, like none of these people had to work with me. And even if I wasn't taking their money, they could have just chose not to sit in the same room with me every day, you know, smoking them out if that's not what they wanted. Like Marco didn't smoke really. And he's just like all day, just every day, like clouded out, you know? Yeah. So yeah, wild to look back on, you know what I'm saying? Wild to look back on. And then, you know, it's unfortunate and fortunate because I think everyone went to the level that they needed to after that. But I had someone come in, try and manage the shop, trying to make it better. Yeah. Guys didn't like that. Started to kind of want to charge a little bit more because, you know, as a percentage in so that we could put a little bit more into the shop. Yeah. And it just kind of fell apart, which is fine. I have zero qualms about talking about it. It's a real thing. It's a real experience. And it went great. Like it really did. I think the negative was a lot shorter than the positive. You know, it was a quick like, hey man, not sure what direction this is going into. I think I'm gonna do my own thing. And that's when I decided, you know what, if my lease is up here and it's kind of falling apart. And if I'm going to work with anyone, it's going to be these guys. I'm just going to go back home to Delaware and try and figure that out.
Yeah.
So I went back up there. I wanted to open my own shop again. And Jeezy already had his own clients. And, you know, just being an understanding, like, nice person, I was like, all right, bro, we'll partner up then. Because, like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to take a percentage from you if you've already built your shit here.
Yeah.
Let's just, like, try and make a powerhouse. And, bro, that's exactly what we did for a while. For 4 years, 3.5 years, we had a powerhouse. And then everybody is powerhouses together, and they realize, damn, like, we can't have 6, 7 people in the same room that do the same shit, that have the same personality and same goals. And, you know, people started kind of going off on their own. And that's that 3-4 year mark I'm telling you about. Like,
what did you learn from, like, the first shop?
A lot, dude.
Yeah.
You know, like, man, Joe can touch on this too, because I know I've been talking, but, like, the first shop 10 years later taught me, if I'm going to do anything corporate, what am I going to choose within that that's okay? And what pissed us off?
Right.
Like, what was okay was great salesperson in the shop.
Right.
Great fucking look to the shop. Yeah. The owner that didn't know anything about tattooing, that didn't have tattoos, wasn't there.
Right.
To interrupt that all the time. Now, from the back end, he may have.
Right.
But I took that. Like, literally the way I designed my shop, totally different way, like wood and Edison bulbs, but modern and nice and, like, inviting, and, like, had shit in it that other shops didn't have, and little shit that I took from that. I also took, like, don't be afraid to push the bar on the rates, you know? Like, there was a shops right next to us doing the $200 tats, and we'd charge $800 for the same thing, and we'd still be busy all day. So it was like, man, like, that mentality clicked. I was like, okay, I can do this, and I can help other people do this. When I went to Handcrafted, it was more the professionalism. It was like, damn, these guys are really industry guys. So now you're taking corporate structure, and I'm mixing it with what I like there. And then I'm like, damn, these are tattooers. And I like this mentality that they have. And I like the way they helped me do this or told me not to do this.
Right.
Because it was coming from a place of within the industry and not outside. So it was like a resentment we had for that guy, you know, because he didn't know what it was like to be in our industry. Now you're working with people. Yeah. Now you're working with people that know what it's like, and they can relate to you, and they have the other side in their head already, so they can kind of move the needle a different way for you. So those two made me open up my shop in Wynwood like that and try and combine the two. Like, I didn't want, you know, to take 60% from my guys. I didn't even want to take 50. They were better than me at the time.
Right.
I took 0. We split the bills. And then I made it look really nice in there. And then, you know, the etiquette was nice, you know. And then on the side of the artist thing I handcrafted, bro, they just taught me to, like, study my shit. Yeah. Like, do your shit, you know. And, like, I'm looking at the, you know, Greg Christians and the Twig Sparkses and the Nunez's and the guy, and Jamie, you know. I'm not sure his last name, but his Instagram's Jamie too. But shout out Jamie. He's been through a lot and come through in the clutch and is doing fucking awesome right now. Like, these guys really taught me the fundamentals for the first time. Coil machines, like, all that. I had never learned about that, bro. I was like not a tattooer's tattooer, bro. It's very much like a fucking new school, you know, reading, you know, Mike DeVry's books, watching Nico's DVDs, you know, doing shit on the first practice skins we had, getting a tattoo kit from the mall. Coming to guys that, like, could build a machine from scratch if you just threw all the parts all over the table. Right. Totally different. So it was just like a maturity, like gaining maturity in the industry. And then I don't think it was the fact that, like, I hired Tyler and Marco. I think it was the fact that I was the one that was just going to do it first. Like, I was just going to go do my own thing first. It was just a personality thing. It wasn't like, oh, I'm the leader at all. It was like, I'm just fucking nuts enough to stay somewhere for 2 years and leave. Like,
was that when, like, the celebrity clients started to come into play? Was it because
Tatted Bieber now in 2017, dude. So 7 years ago. Yeah. Maybe 16. I think the photo might even say 16. And it's like stupid, like, we're still talking about it, right? It's not even relevant anymore. He's had so many tats since. But people still get excited about it because some people haven't heard about it that I've done it. So cool, like, I mention it here and there. But it started in 2016 when that was, I believe, when I opened my shop. Like, literally the first year.
So that was in Miami. Yeah. And you were in Miami.
That was in Miami, yeah. We were at the club. I got a call at 1 o'clock in the morning. Hey, I got a huge celebrity for you to tattoo. I can't even tell you who it is. I got to talk to management once we once we clear it, I'll call you back.
Yeah.
Called me back a half hour later, cleared it, told him to meet him at the Versace mansion at 4 a.m. because they were still out.
Right.
Met him there, tatted until 10 o'clock in the morning. You know, this is a cool drop for you guys. So, mind you, I'm young. I wasn't even thinking. I'm thinking, yeah.
How old are you?
I was, 2016 is 24, so 8 years ago. Yeah, I was 27.
Yeah.
The year after I opened my shop. And, this is just like a bomb dropper for how young and how, like, unaware I was of how important this person was. Or how rich they were. So I'm tattooing him, and it's going on, like, 9 in the morning, dude. Yeah. And I'm, like, thinking in my head, I'm like, does this dude have to leave? Like, I'm just here, just not going. Maybe they're on a time frame. He's the biggest person in the world. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, bro, I got like an hour left, man. I just want to make sure like you're not late for your flight or anything. I know you got to get out. He's like, oh no, I have my own jet, dude. Just take your time. And that was like that was a huge eye opener for me.
Check a bag or something.
Yeah, no, he just kind of walked into the airport and find your plane and head out. So yeah, that was like was like just one of them moments where it was like, man, like, this is these people's lives, you know. This is how their life is.
You're like, oh, me too. So.
I'm so and I'm so small.
Yeah,
you know, I felt it didn't make me feel small like as a man. It's just like, wow, like this is my first time dealing with someone at a really different level, and this person was at the time 8 years younger than me. Looking back on it is just so much more rewarding and weird than it was when I did it.
When it was happening.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like more of like a flash in the bucket, and then years later, I'm just like, the shit that was said and how it worked out is just
what did you
too
say
cool,
to him?
Man.
Because I know you talked about like I can't even relate to some of these people.
Yeah, it's hard, man. You're just like, you know, talking about like basically like congratulating them on album. Like it was an album release party, right? So I congratulated them on the album. Yeah. We were listening to it all night. I'm like, shit sounds dope. And it kind of did. I wasn't a huge fan of him, but it was like, you know, for pop and for shit that people like. Sure. Like the guy's always putting out fucking crazy hits. So like, you know, just like touched on that and, you know, touched on like when he started getting tattooed and small conversation here and there. Like I think it was a long night. Like people were kind of fucked up. Like there was only a few people allowed in the room. Like we didn't know each other. So it wasn't like long conversation. Right. Got a picture at the end and like in the picture, like some of them, it was like him looking down. Like he won't look into the camera without like, I don't want to say it was like purposeful, but I think it was, to be honest. You have like ways of doing your PR when you're a star. Right. And like, I think one of them was like, don't look too happy with anybody who's not at your level. Like he wasn't even looking at the camera. It was like, like chilling and then like here. Right. Like I'm not even going to give you, I'm not even going to give you the satisfaction of if you show people this, they thought I was cool with you. Right. And I'm not saying that was on purpose, but it's like, you know, you just learn stupid little things all the way through. That's like, this is what you're going to have to deal with if you ask for this kind of lifestyle and you ask to tattoo these people. A lot of uncomfortability. Right. You know, not as much crazy recognition as you would like off the first few people. Right. Not as much in return monetarily as you would have maybe hoped. All those lessons led me to like be able to coach my guys on like what that looks like now. Don't expect this. Don't say this. Don't go in there.
What are maybe some of the common ones? Like misconceptions for an artist. Like
don't expect to get your rate the first time or the second time from someone who can afford 20 times your rate. Yeah. Don't. Because
what does that look like? I mean, it sounds like,
did you charge
hey, you're going to get
100%. And I honestly, you know, again, I just did a podcast called The Honest Tattooer, so keep it honest. Like I didn't always get what I wanted out of these situations. Right. In fact, I got sunned on you know, once or twice. Yeah. You know, and that's the experience. That's the learning experience. It's like I would invoice Future each time I was with him. And, you know, no knocking him. Like, guy's the biggest star in the world, hip-hop wise. Like, he would just pay me when he wanted or if he wanted. Right. It was more building the relationship that's more important to him. He was much more professional and smart than I had thought just listening to his music, you know. Yeah. So when you learn that over 2-3 times, eventually I would just send them the invoice and I would never ask for the payment. Yeah. I wouldn't say anything because I knew it was just on his time. And I knew on the list of things that he had to do or he wanted to do, I'm the haircut, bro. Right. Like legit, I'm the haircut. You know, I'm the car wash. You know, I need all my Lambos washed and my Ferraris washed and I'm going to get a little tat. Right. It's not like you have a business meeting with fucking Interscope or you have a new deal coming. It's just like, I'm a nobody, bro. And when you humble yourself, you get humbled like that and you realize like, what can you say to a guy like this? What can you ask him? You know, I tell my guys that all the time. Like, bro, like, don't expect anything. Just do what I didn't do, actually. Don't even invoice. Yeah. Go do it for free.
Yeah.
Go do it because you have respect for this person and you're humbled that you even get to sit in the room with them. Because I think the reason I did this is because I figured out, and it was already true, but it took me some figuring out, that 99% of your clients will always pay and they will always be normal people. If you're not willing to give the 1% that discount or that look, that free tat, that, you know, whatever you want for something in return for yourself, it's not for you. It's not for you to say like, oh, I'd love to do this tat, but, you know, I'm getting my rate because this guy's rich, you know, and they're not going to care. Yeah. Like, I didn't charge any more than I normally charge. I'll be clear about that.
Yeah.
But I tallied everything up. I tallied the Ubers, I tallied the flights, I tallied my stay, I tallied my tats, and I would send that out. Yeah. And I think that's reasonable.
Sure.
But it's reasonable as a business practice. It's not reasonable for that person.
Yeah.
Like, I did it wrong. You know, I expected the full price and the full, like, accommodation when he expected, bro, like, do you know who you're tattooing? And it wasn't even arrogance. I can't even say it was arrogance. It was like, hey, man, like, I'm giving you an opportunity to really blow your name up, and you're already coming in hot.
Right.
Like, at one point, Future was like, slow down, you know, just slow down a bit.
Yeah.
And that was like his exact words. Like, I sent him the invoice. I told him, this is where you can send it. I don't care when you send it, whatever. He was like, okay, no problem, but let's slow down a bit. Very professional, bro. Yeah. These guys they don't talk shit. They don't get mad. You'll never read an emotion on their face, even in front of them.
Yeah.
It's their action and their calmness and their, like, stoicism that's, like, the most intimidating.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, like, this guy's just gonna pay me, but when he wants, like, and like, I'm asking him for something that I probably shouldn't, and he's not even angry, like, he's not reacting. All these things are lessons learned to me. It's like,
but would you say, like, even though maybe you're not receiving these immediate like compensations or benefits, would you say it is beneficial to work with these people?
100%. I left it alone for 2 sessions, and the 3rd session I received more than I ever have for a tat.
Gotcha.
And that's the lesson without the words.
Yeah.
And that those guys they don't need to give you the words. They're going to sit there and let you learn the lesson. If you leave before the lesson's learned and you don't want to tat them again, that's on you. But, like, I equate it to, like, you know, I don't know if you listen to hip hop at all, but I love production. Like, I love producers. The Metro Boomins of the world, who's Future and Drake and all these guys, producers, 21 Savage, all these new guys, I'm pretty sure his first few years was just giving these guys beats. And they, in turn, eventually dropped an ad-lib for him at the beginning of the song. And then he saves this ad-lib and he adds it to every other song and to get the recognition. And one day, you know, and I don't know this for a fact, but I guarantee you one day somebody came and dropped 150 bands on the table and was like, thank you for your fucking hard work and your trust, and thank you for not bitching about this and looking at it as a money grab. Now is your time. Now you're our producer. Now we're going to fucking pay you.
Yeah.
Your loyalty showed. Your patience showed. You've been working way too long, working way too hard to not get paid. And when you're at that echelon, you know when it's that someone else's time.
Yeah.
And I wish I had done that better. I wish I had not been like, oh, well, I've been tattooing for 15 years already when I tatted Future, so I'm not doing shit for free.
Right.
I'm already well into my career. Like, I'm, let's say, top 10 on the charts in tattooing in my demographic, and he's number 1 on his. So, like, we're in my head at the time, like, selfishly, I'm like, oh, we're at the same height.
I'm just going to treat him like any other client.
Careers. Like, I'm a superstar in my career, and he's a superstar in his. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. I'm not a superstar at all. Come to find out, you know, like, no one gives a shit about the tattooer when you're a celebrity or you're an athlete. Again, you are one thing on a list of their 38 things to do that day. So that's what I give the lesson of, like, humbleness to my guys when you do that. Just go in, be yourself, man. Be real. They love real. They don't like the fucking, oh, shit, love your stuff, like dapping them up right away. Just sit there and shut the fuck up and wait till you're spoken to. You know, that's kind of how I handled it eventually. So, yeah, back to your question of what advice do I give my guys. It's like, I guess it is, man. Like, don't treat these guys any differently, but also don't treat them like they owe you something because they're famous. Like, wait until they feel they owe you. It's a very important, like, line to
like,
draw.
be patient. Like,
absolutely. And I'm speaking from experience of not being patient.
Right.
You know, I'm telling people to do what I should have done, you know?
What do you see, like people you work with or yourself, like going out and pursuing celebrity clients, or
Yeah,
is it?
yeah. I do an
Okay.
outreach every month on social media with some guys, actually here in Miami, Fort Lauderdale,
Nice.
when I'm up there. And we do outreach to blue checks every day of the week.
Yeah.
I don't do it, but they're sending out, and we have kind of a conversation. We start, and then as soon as we get the phone number, that becomes my job.
Sure.
As soon as we get the contact, I put it in a contact list of like celebs or blue checks or influencers or entrepreneurs or whatever, and then we try and book from there.
Cool.
So yeah, absolutely. But will it ever be the backbone of my career? No.
Right.
No, you're selling 1% of these people, 2% of these people, and that's legit numbers.
And you have to try to keep them in your style, right?
Right. You have to try and keep them in your style, and you have to try and accommodate their schedule as well.
Right.
And when you look at someone like myself, or, you know, probably a lot of you guys that do projects, these are 10-session projects, 5-session projects, 6-hour days, 9 hours with breaks, food,
Right.
smoking, whatever you do. Most of the people that you want to tattoo can't even give you this time. So it's finding like the happy medium of the middle ground of like now I chase more like entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs to me are people who can work from home. They have as much time as I'd like to give them,
Yeah.
and they can make money while they're doing it.
Right.
And they also have, like, I more or less almost like the actors and the musicians more than the athletes and the influencers sometimes, because they have this like piece of creativity in their brain and art in their brain that can relate to mine, in the sense of, I'm going to give you my time because I know art takes time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to rush you because I'm famous and need to get out of here to an interview. So let's schedule accordingly, right? Like if we can't schedule for 6 months, great. But in that 6 months, just make sure one of your celebrity lived days has 8 hours in it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like grow with people who can appreciate that time. You know what I mean? Because a lot of celebrities love the tattoos and they appreciate them, but they don't have the time for you that you need to give them your best work. And that's always been something that I fought with. Like, I don't even want to tattoo some of the biggest people if I can't get the time, because I can't get the quality without the time. And then if you don't have the quality, what are they bragging about?
Yeah. Right.
Average work that they could go anywhere and get. It's very like teeter-tottery game that you're playing with trying to tattoo people who have zero time and zero appreciation for art in general. Like they're numbers guys solely. So, you know, I like working with people who can sit at home and do their thing. And
Have you had the experience where you don't get the conditions you want and it affects the work with some of these people?
100%, bro. Yeah. Like I wouldn't have tattooed like simple wings on the back of Bieber's neck if that's if I had the time to do elaborate something else somewhere else. I was listening
You
to
weren't
him.
doing a consultation and trying to like,
nothing, dude.
let's do something nicer.
Same
over
thing
here,
with
maybe
Future.
on
Like
your
I'm
arms.
flying out to LA, Atlanta, Miami to do this stuff, and like we don't know what we're doing when we get there.
Yeah.
And not only do we not know what we're doing, but we're starting at 2 a.m.
Right.
And like there's, you know, whatever it may have been, bro. Guys so busy and so famous and so sought after and needed in different spaces at different times. Like there was times, bro, where I flew there for 4 days and tatted for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Does that affect my environment and my income? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, if you weren't ready to sacrifice it,
Right.
you know, it's kind of my fault, right?
Right,
Like
right.
if I couldn't pay my way for 5 days, the fuck do I think I should deserve to, to tattoo someone like that for?
Right.
So I ended up having to take, you know, L's on that, and for the W in experience,
Right.
like, you know, I mean, I hope that somewhat answers the question of
No, 100%.
environment. Like, yeah, like the environments I was in, like I was at the Versace mansion with a bunch of beautiful people tattooing Bieber in the suite upstairs. Like what a beautiful environment. But I had no time. I had no thought process to do it. I didn't have a stencil machine. I didn't have all the shit I wanted. We were sitting in a regular chair, like straddling the chair, like convention style shit,
Right,
you know?
yeah.
And so, yeah, it definitely affects it. You're where they are when they need you, whether it's a studio, a condo,
Basically doing scratcher shit on a celebrity.
on
you know what I mean?
non-scratcher.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People.
In
Yeah.
the most like luxurious place possible.
exactly.
That's crazy.
And trying to like, and again, I always like touch back on like I got respect for him and it taught me a lot of lessons. But like, bro, there wasn't even a lot of help there. Like, yo, what are you trying to get? Like, Oh, what you think's gonna be hot?
Yeah.
I mean, I got fucking a million options. If, like, honestly, like, I could just search Google for any word in the whole encyclopedia. We could do that, you know? And,
what was the setup like in there? Like,
beautiful, dude. Yeah, beautiful.
No, I mean, like your setup. Like, what did you have to work with? You know what I mean? Like,
all the stuff I have at home. Like, the Miami shit caught me off guard because it was so late. I couldn't get in the shop. I didn't own it. I couldn't go pick up my stuff. I had what I had.
So you just had your machine and some ink?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it became better, but at times it was very uncomfortable. The setting was gorgeous all the time, mansion, whatever. But yeah, just awkward space for me to be in sometimes to perform at my highest level.
Right.
And that's that experience that you're talking about. It's like playing a championship game and like you're responsible for the winning shot, period. If you don't make it, you feel like you blow everybody's chances. And that's how I felt. If I don't impress and I don't do what I'm supposed to and I don't act how I'm supposed to, I'm not going to succeed. When realistically, just be real. Just be yourself, man. If these people migrate to you, you know it works. You know, if they don't, you just have different personalities. Like,
yeah. I think that's interesting because I'll like ask and have my own experience with, you're like trying to find that line where like I want to speak up because I am the professional in this sense.
Yeah.
To give the best work. But I don't want to be a dick and like deter you from getting the work in general.
Super fine line.
Right?
Super fine line.
Yeah, dude.
Very fine line.
And then I know sometimes it's just not, you know, a successful scenario. Right? And I was talking with like one of my boys. He tattooed someone that I really like. And I was like, yo, how'd it come out? He's like, terrible. I'm like, wait, why? And he's like, because this fucking happened. This person interrupted this and that. Because the artist was uncomfortable. Yeah. You know, and like kind of how you said with like designs and stuff. Yeah, you want, not to say it like this, but maybe if there's any time you want to make the winning shot, it's this game. Right. You know, it's like, how do I get the conditions that I would like to perform at my best?
And how do you interact with this person like they're your friend when you know they don't even want to be your friend? They have no care. Like I just wanted to be, you know, funny and outgoing and polite and all that, but likable, they don't want that. Yeah. It's not, maybe they don't not want it, but they have their crew. They don't trust many people. Yeah. I mean, you got to think of where these guys, where he comes
to get
from.
A piece of them.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Especially coming from like, you know.
Do you find athletes to be a little bit less like that? Because I've only had experience with tattooing, like as far as famous people, was a few NFL
athletes
guys.
Have more appreciation. Like, okay.
They're more street level if you think about it, right?
Like, they can go into a studio and they have a talent and they crush it. Right. And there was a lot of learning that went on there, but it was mostly learning through experience. When you're dealing with an athlete, I think they have more respect for hard training over and over and over again. So when you just ask them for some time and some like, you know, sweat equity, like they're cool with it. Right. You know, they don't get to sit back in the studio and just be amazing, you know, and have everybody cater and private jets this, private jets that. A lot of times athletes are on the same level financially as maybe we are or a bit higher, but we think since they got that big contract that life is peachy and they can afford 8 sessions in a row and, you know, they're going to be a dick. Most of them are really cool, man.
And they're still showing up to practice every
fucking day. And you're like, oh, don't do this with your tat. They're like, I have to. Right. Don't work out. I work out every day. Don't go train. We have OTAs tomorrow. Like, okay. Like, I guess you're not going to get your best work.
Want to schedule your touch-up? Or
no, that and like when? Oh, well, after a season. Yeah. 5 months from now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's hard, bro. Yeah. That's why you should always focus on your backbone of normal people, pricing well, treating people right, answering emails immediately. Yeah, that's the bread and butter, giving people a good experience. That will always be your bread and butter. Unless you are, and like I have so much respect for this dude, Steve Wiebe. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Steve Wiebe. Yeah. Bro, this guy has tattooed so many athletes and so many higher end. He has an ESPN 30 for 30. Okay, he's not even an athlete or a coach or anything. Like he's tatted so many players in the game and holds this like really astute value to these guys because of like his presence, I think. Like I think the guy's like 6'5", 6'4", like head tatted, family of kids. You know, when I walk in, fucking young guy at the time, I got no kids. I'm running the earth, fucking no holds bar, no responsibility. They don't have any respect for me. Right. You know, when a guy that's, you know, future 6'4", you know, when he walks in the room, it's presence. It's a presence. Like 6'3", it's like everyone's like he demands attention. even if he doesn't demand it, all eyes on him. The room goes quiet. You know, he has families to take care of. He has kids to take care of. He's got a lot of other responsibilities. And when they look at me, they see a kid. Yeah. They see, like, you're going to do what I want. You're going to be here when I need. You know, with Steve, they bring this guy in. He's got his kids with him. It costs him $5,000. It costs you $5,000 just to get him on the plane, not the rate of the tat, just to get him to fly to you. And then it's all the expenses. And none of these guys care to do that because he's developed that respect over time. And I think it's like he's an older gentleman, you know what I'm saying? He's been doing this kind of the old school way. He's like been doing it the Marcinison way too, like very Mystique like he doesn't answer DMs. He's never answered a DM from me just saying like, love your work, look up to you, would love to pay you for, you know, just to sit next to you and watch one day, even if it's not an important client. Never answers that stuff. And I'm not upset about it. I'm just saying like he holds this like sacred, this is my clientele, this is my world. I don't want to let anybody into it. This has made my entire career. Like his kids are friends with these athletes' kids and with these celebrities' kids. They hang out, they fly together, they do shit. That's always what I've wanted, you know, but it's not always what I've been able to achieve, and that's fine. But I still look at it every day. I'm like, dude, how? Like you just asked me earlier, how do these people get here? Like, how do you establish yourself and how do you hold a presence of respect when you walk in a room to these guys who don't have to respect anyone? Or they should, but they don't need to. Right. They already have their guys, their management, their money, their all this. They're not interested in outside sources. And that's always impressed me, like always impressed me. Like they talked about him when I was tatting there. Oh, shit, where's Steve? Like it was COVID, so he couldn't fly from British Columbia to Cali. Yeah. You know, it was like cut off. So I even believe wholeheartedly, and I'm still super thankful that I was like a step in for Steve. Right. While Future couldn't go see him, you know? And I'll take it all day. Yeah. But like I wouldn't be surprised if I never worked with him again because now he's able to do that and his work is sick. Yeah. Like his work is sick. And, you know, again, dude, this is just all like respect that I've built for the game and like the knowledge of like even touching the upper echelon of it. I'm not even like in it all the time. It's just even touching it has been, it's carried across my whole career, like in different ways. And how I tell kind of my guys to handle themselves in certain situations.
Are you tired of using ink bottles that are spelled correctly? Do you find yourself texting during ad reads for companies? Well, I do, and that's why I use Allegory Black. Are you tired of your black arms looking blue? Do you suck at tattooing and you want to get better? Use Allegory Black. Allegory has normal black and ultra black. Just when you thought it couldn't get any darker, they put out ultra black. Use Allegory ink. It's the best ink on the planet. Go to allegoryink.com and use discount code Unemployable for 20% off. I know, it's crazy. It's so much money. You really should pay full price, but we have a discount code. Right, Alex?
That's right.
If you could tattoo someone famous, you have a person, you're like, that's the one?
I don't even know if he gets tattooed or whatever, but Quentin Tarantino would be.
Hell yeah. I've always like movie style
I would just
shit.
Want him to talk.
I want to tattoo Tom
I won't
Hardy.
Say shit.
Or is that, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Is Tom Hardy? Yeah, bro. Because he has some good work by some good people.
Man, the bloke's really philosophical, man. Like, he's really fucking smart.
And
dude.
Honestly, like he has different accents. Like at first, I didn't even know that was.
You didn't know he was British,
yeah,
right?
Like I didn't. Yeah. And like most of all, it's because I think his acting is just so dope, and he plays every role so
I really like
intense,
right?
And I would just love to sit with somebody like that. I would love to sit with a Johnny Depp. Like that Pirates of the Caribbean is my favorite like movie.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you call that series.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Franchise ever. And like that guy, he likes art.
Yeah.
He'll give you time, you know? I think Hardy would give you time. Good conversation. Yeah. I think egotistically, the celebrity I would like to tat is Drake, because if I tatted Drake, I would be the only person in the world to tattoo Bieber, Future, and Drake. Top of the tops. Like
the trifecta.
That's just like a stupid goal. Like it doesn't need to happen, but it'd be pretty crazy.
Then you could cross Kendrick off the list.
Yeah. Because they all happened like so far apart and so oddly that like if it just so happened that I got these three people somehow at all, maybe I can stop saying that it was odd.
Right.
Maybe it's
Like
like
luck or something.
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
it's not
fluke.
luck, you know, but because like that just doesn't happen 3 times
Sure.
in a row to a normal guy like me, you know. So like that would be like the holy shit moment. But I have a lot of other people that I would love to sit with and actually like experience like being able to hit them up after and be like, hey man, hope all is well. Really appreciate the experience. And they're like, yeah, I can't wait. You know, like someone down homey, like personable. That's not like you're this guy and I'm this guy, you know, like we could still commingle. We could still be cool. You're out in LA, like hit me up. We'll go for fucking a little drink or whatever. And I would be crazy to be seen with somebody like that out and just like chilling and you got no ties really other than your artwork and your time. Like I wish it was like that. Yeah, it's not, you know, it doesn't often happen that way. But just being a personable person, dude. Like I love conversation and talking to new people. I think
that's inherent in tattoo artists for the most part, right? Like
yeah,
you have your introverts and stuff like that, but I think that's why the podcast thing works so well with tattooers too, because this is what we do, right? We just talk to people all day while we're tattooing them.
I think it benefits you when you do it. But like before, maybe like where I'm trying to convince the guys to get some kind of presence on social media. Before that, I was trying to convince the guys to have conversation with their clients. Right. Yeah, I feel like that was a tool a lot of people like look past. That wasn't always a thing. Sometimes you just sat there quietly or headphones on or whatever. But I was like, yo, get like more involved with your clients, like develop a relationship. Because it was very transactional 10 years ago. Yeah. In, out, buy, never see again. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We've kind of seen that growth and personality of the industry.
I feel as you do that, like that's what builds your clientele, right? Yeah. Like the conversation, it becomes more about the experience of getting tattooed. Obviously, the quality of the work has to be there. But that conversation, like I just had a client the other day and we had awesome conversation the whole time. Brandon was here, like, and I tattooed his wife the next day. Yeah. Super personable. The guy is like a lawyer and he was like really smart and had a lot of like interesting stuff to say and it just flowed. You know what I mean? Like we just wound up talking the whole time. You
guys ever thought about starting a podcast as you're tattooing? Like with your client?
That'd be interesting.
We just started actually.
Yeah, because I'm thinking just
maybe not a podcast, but we just started doing like going live and stuff like that, but like the experience of getting tattooed. Oh, maybe it's a little different than what you're saying, but actually some friends were starting an idea. I guess it is a podcast while you're tattooing. Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically like
just miking them up.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this can happen to everyone, including myself, because like not every client has this amazing story, but they all have a story, I guess. But I guess if you're trying to reach the masses, like your upper echelon clients, like maybe when you book them, you ask them like if they mind speaking about how they got so successful in what they do. And that way, like it's preemptive that like when they walk in and they sit down, that you guys are going to be mic'd up. You guys are going to talk about what we would talk about while getting your work done. And like it takes their mind off of the pain. It allows them to share why they're getting it or how they even got to afford you. Yeah. And like, you wouldn't, necessarily have a bunch of like celebs, but it's a bunch of normal people that have real stories that can relate to like other normal people.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. Something, maybe we'll leave this or it doesn't really matter, but we started a new channel. Mm-hmm. We haven't released it yet, but we filmed episodes where we bring in famous people and we try to teach them how to tattoo. That is sick, which is pretty fun, bro.
That's amazing.
So, like, I'll just give you, like, a quick story on it. So, like, we brought in this musician and, we created a simple design for him relating to, like, what he does. Sure. So, we're, like, it's Pony Lawson and I, and, like, he's kind of like Angel, I'm Devil, trying to coach him through tattooing fake skin. And then at the end, we're like, now you're going to do a person. But we don't tell him that. So they're like, wait, what? Yeah. We're like, yeah, no, you can do it. It'll be fine. So, like, we supply the client and they do the tattoo. And it's just so interesting to see someone, like, at the top of their level do something they're bad at. Yeah, right? Bro. Yeah. And then he, like, went along with it. But you could, bro, handshaking. Yeah,
nervous as hell.
Bro. Dude, so then we're, like.
Completely out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, we're, like, coaching through. And then you see, like, somewhere halfway through the tattoo, he's like, bro, you see that fucking line I just did?
He's proud of himself.
And then the confidence comes, And now he's like talking shit. He's like, yo, you want a water or something? Like asking the client. Like he's
the tattoo artist now. Yeah,
bro.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, and then at the end, like seeing them being so proud of themselves. Like, yo, look, that's not bad, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, it's pretty bad. Yeah, no, it's good, whatever. But it's fun, dude. It's like a cool.
That's a great concept, man. I mean, if you can get enough episodes and enough content out of that, that's phenomenal. I'd have to kind of, I guess, equate it to like, what if they made you go into the studio and like start spitting bars or like start singing? But they had their management around, they had their producer, their engineer, and they're all like, "Oh my god!" Like I deal with the best superstar in the world every day, and this guy's botching.
Yeah,
You'd probably go from being high on your career to like, ooh, like this
be
is
in the
what
booth
people
like,
feel.
yo, turn the bass up, slow that down a little bit.
Sure, punch me in. Punch me in. I'm ready.
I was like, when people throw the first pitch, it's like,
oh yeah, that's
always
the thing.
like, oh,
Don't
fuck.
bounce it.
Yeah,
don't fuck it up, man.
Yeah, like damn, I didn't know the catcher was this far away from
Shit.
this motherfucker. Like,
Yeah. I mean, we can sit here and keep talking. I gotta let them go
all day.
That's cool.
But what I will say is, Dan, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you
Super
guys for
excited
having
to
me, bro.
have you,
For real,
man.
it's great to get this off my chest every once in a while because you know we're often talking about just life shit. And
So good to finally see you.
yeah, you too, bro. For real, man. It's been too long of a time, and I should make it more often. I stay. My house is 7 minutes from here every time I come here,
Really?
and I've never known.
You gotta hit me up when you come.
100%, bro. That's and that's the beauty of it, right? Like I will, you know, because I'm like I could have walked here, really.
Right.
So yeah, thank you guys.
Oh yeah, and Joe, thanks again, man.
Of course,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Anytime, bro.
Thanks for joining us on the Unemployable podcast. See you next week.